what if the diet you've been told is healthy is actually working against you, right? So you could be eating perfectly, doing everything right for somebody else's genes. In this video, you'll learn why your healthy diet isn't actually working for you, the dangers of some of the extreme diets, and how to start eating for your genes. I'm Dr. Amy Newsel, and I've helped thousands of MTHFR mutants have more energy, clear up their brain fog, have babies, and avoid long-term illness. I even wrote a book on it. So you have been eating healthy. You're doing everything right, except your diet isn't working for you, right? It isn't making you feel better. It isn't helping you lose weight. It isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. You're frustrated. I get that. You've done everything right. You've followed it to the letter, but you still feel tired or bloated or inflamed or stuck or just not seeing any benefits, right? You're not seeing the gains. So popular diets like keto or paleo or carnivore or vegan or whatever work great for some people, right? You can see them all over the internet like, la la la, this did so much for me. But they make other people miserable. They do not feel good. Your genes influence your metabolism, meaning how quickly or slowly you use calories. They influence your nutrient absorption, meaning how bioavailable different nutrients are to your body. And they influence how easily your body can use particular nutrients like vitamins or minerals or even macronutrients like fats and proteins and carbs. Your genes also affect how quickly you're able to eliminate or detoxify particular toxins and byproducts of the digestion of certain foods, right? So very many of these things are completely individual. They are not one size fits all. So this isn't about willpower. It's not about doing something wrong, right? You could be doing it perfectly. It's just not the perfect thing for you. I get it's a little bit like it starts to get murky really quick. If you're feeling overwhelmed by finding the right diet for your body, for your genes, or you feel like you've been trying to do that for years and years and years and nothing's working, click the link in the video description. I'd be happy to help. So we know your current diet isn't doing what you need it to do, right? Like that, we know that. We've established that. And the fad diets look so good, right? The videos are so good. They're so compelling. There's all this stuff. Everybody's getting great results. There's before and after pictures. That's amazing. But fad diets can be really dangerous, especially long term, right? They're just not meant. This is not the way humans are meant to eat, no matter what Instagram tells you. So restrictive diets can actually disrupt your hormones, change your gut health, and change the balance of gut bacteria that you have in a negative way, and also disrupt your metabolism. So keto or carnivore diet, for instance, right, can be very helpful for some people in the short term to drop weight quickly because you're doing a metabolic shift, right? And this could have happened to our ancestors, but it's never, ever intended to be a long-term diet, right? Long-term, it turns really dangerous. It can lead to metabolic harm through disrupted lipid panels with dangerously high levels of LDL. That's the bad cholesterol, quote unquote. Not that either of them are fully good or fully bad, but it's the one you don't want a ton of, especially if you're prone to cardiometabolic disease. Also, there's a complete lack of fiber intake, which disrupts your gut bacteria. And as we now know, gut bacteria are linked to everything, right? Like depression, mood, cognitive function, obviously metabolism, weight, nutrient absorption, all of those things, right? So that's a problem. The lack of fiber intake, which does not feed your gut bacteria, and often a lack of micronutrients because people don't get enough veggies, right? Like they're eating meat, which is great, but not hugely rich in micronutrients. So, this can have a really negative impact also on thyroid function because in order to convert your thyroid hormone into its active form, which is the one you need, you need carbohydrates, right? And if you're on keto, a strict keto, you're not getting those, right? In quantities enough to actually get that thyroid hormone. So this could actually be working against you if you're trying to lose weight or keep weight off long term. So that's kind of the opposite of what you want, right? That is not so good. Vegan eating can be a really healthy choice if it's done incredibly conscientiously. I think healthy vegan eating is actually one of the hardest diets to pull off because there are so many nutrients that we can only get from meat and not from plant-based proteins or plant-based food sources. So for many, and unfortunately, vegan for a lot of people just turns into carbitarian, right? Like they eat pasta and bread and grains and grains and grains and more grains. that's diabetes waiting to happen. So that's not great. So it can lead very easily into insulin resistance, into nutrient deficiencies, into prediabetes, and then diabetes, because plant-based diet is very, very carbohydrate rich. Also, people can tend to develop protein, iron, and vitamin B12 deficiencies quite quickly. One size fits all nutrition advice is generally ignoring all of our genetic diversity, right? You know, no two people are the same. We are all precious snowflakes. Why would we expect our diets to all be the same? That doesn't make any sense at all, right? Our bodies respond very differently to different factors, right? And extreme diets like ultra low carb or vegan or whatever can actually stress detox and methylation pathways, right? Which kind of lie underneath your entire health picture. So especially in people with gene variants like MTHFR or COMT or ApoE. So obviously fad diets are fine short term, right? Do what you need to do for that, 3 weeks while you're getting ready for your wedding. But if you are trying to find a diet long term, that's not it. That is not sustainable. So what does the best long-term eating plan look like? Well, looks like eating for your own body, your own individuality, for your genes, right? Everybody can start with a few general rules that apply to humans, right? No matter what their genes are. Whole foods. Always start with whole foods. This is vegetables, fruits, simple meat, fish, eggs, dairy, right? Beans, pulses, legumes, whole grains. These are all really good sources of nutrition. Rule number 2, the more processed something is, the less nutrition it has to offer you. Simply because the more steps they do to it, right, the less there is left. So processed food could be something like bread, where they've taken a whole grain and they put it through a process. They ground it to make flour, then they put it through another process where they, like mix it with yeast and it rises, and then they put it through another process where it's baked. So bread is technically a processed food, but it's minimally processed. Something like Pop-Tart is seriously processed, right? Because they took that whole grain, right, and they made it into flour, and then they stripped out a whole bunch of stuff so that it turns into whatever that is on the outside of a Pop-Tart, which is not a food, by the way. That's something else, right? And then they add a bunch of like stabilizers and preservatives so you can keep it in a little foil bag for, 20 years. Who knows, right? And then, they put whatever the mix in the middle is, sugar plus chemicals plus fruit something plus, and then it's so processed, right? It's been through so many processes. You could not do this at home, right? Nobody makes this at home because you can't. We need industrial machinery for it. That is ultra processed. Much like breakfast cereal. What the what? Breakfast cereal, there is no grain that comes in little O shapes or little fruit color. No. That's not right. Sugars, sugar substitutes, and artificial sweeteners are not healthy for anybody, right? These are foods to be enjoyed in extreme moderation. So nobody's genes do great with these, because in nature, where do you find sugar cubes sitting around or artificial sweetener packets, right? That's not a thing. Extreme is not the way to go. This is another rule. Extreme is not the way to go for long-term health, right? Start to get suspicious if a diet has only a limited number of foods that you can eat, or only a limited number of things you can do, or a really limited eating window, right? That's fine short-term. It's not fine long-term. And eat more of colorful vegetables, right? Clean protein, healthy fats, minimally processed foods. Okay, so that's all simple. That's all background knowledge that hopefully in this day and age you knew already, and I knew already. Great. So the first step to eating for your genes is really knowing what your genes are, right? And what matters to your diet. So MTHFR is one of the most important genes to pay attention to in your diet because it changes the way your body is able to activate folate, which is one of your key critical nutrients, right? And it makes these good sources of folate really crucial in your diet. And if you have this gene, which 50% of the US population does, by the way, it's not uncommon, right? Like that's half of us. So if there's 4 people in your room right now, 2 of them probably have MTHFR. It also means you can't utilize synthetic folic acid effectively, and that it actually blocks the function of the MTHFR gene. So that is something that you need to avoid, right? So those are simple steps that you can take to tailor your diet to your genes, to actually who you are written as, right? Like who you are designed to be. So eating in a way that is good for the MTHFR gene also helps to balance one of your foundational processes called methylation. And methylation happens in every cell in your body constantly, right? This is something that we always are doing in the background just because it's vital for life. So other genes that very much affect how your food should be coming in, COMT. COMT is another one that changes the way you metabolize certain neurotransmitters and also estrogen, right? And when you have the COMT gene, you do have a higher need for magnesium, which means more dark green leafy vegetables and, praise be, more dark chocolate. Yes! So you're getting these good food sources of magnesium. And the other thing that you need to really metabolize estrogen effectively is fiber. So with COMT, fiber is always going to be crucial. Another gene that's really important for the way you eat is the ApoE gene, because it increases your risk, and there's a bunch of different ApoE variants, but ApoE genes generally increase your risk of cardiovascular disease, lipid dysfunction, and also Alzheimer's dementia. And so with these genes, we want to actually really minimize some of the saturated fats and work on getting the unsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. But also, we want to keep blood sugars really stable, because blood sugars are a huge factor in all of those outcomes, right? In cardiovascular disease, in Alzheimer's dementia, all of those things, right? We really want to keep those blood sugars stable, right? And keep them steady so they're not swinging high, swinging low, swinging high, swinging low, which means if you're eating sugars or sweet foods, right? Even artificial sweeteners, you're eating them in small amounts and after a full meal. You're never eating them as a snack or by themselves or like just drinking on a soda all day. That is the worst possible thing you can do for your blood sugar. The more you know about your genes, the more specific your diet can become, right? And so, even if you're using a really simple at-home genetic test kit from Ancestry or 23andMe or whatever, you can really start to learn about the genes that you have and the variants that you have and how to tailor your diet for your body specifically, because eating for your genes is always going to be the most effective diet for you, because it's literally for you only, right? Like it's not anybody else's, it's yours. So you can really own that, right? And the best thing is, when you're eating for your genes, it can guide your choices, but there's no hard and fast rules. It's not like it has to be, it doesn't need to control you, right? Like you don't need to feel bound by this. You can just be guided by it. It can be good information for you to have long term.